And Mason. There we go. Hi, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
Hi, all.
Hello.
How are we all doing? We made it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Despite the technical difficulties, we're here.
Every time, you know what? We're nailing it.
Yeah, another space week down.
Yep.
But
it was fun.
Yes. And just like class tomorrow, we're going to share our highs and lows of Space Week. All right, Caroline, I'm going to let you take it away. Get us started.
Welcome, everyone, to Space News Roundup with an exclamation point. My name is Caroline, Director of Astronaut Experiences of Space Plus, and I am co-hosting this evening's event with Emily Higgins. Emily, can you introduce yourself and get us started?
Sure. And we also have a surprise co-host tonight. We have Titan, or Andrew Paris, here with us tonight. He was kind enough to help to organize this event that we have for you guys tonight. So as Caroline mentioned, I'm Emily. I'm the director of Space Plus, and Space Plus is history's first Web3 space program founded with the mission to increase access and diversity in space. And we are super honored at the end of this year's Space Week to be joined by some phenomenal influential thinkers and researchers in the space to talk a little bit about what's going on in aerospace right now, why it's important, what we should be paying attention to, and all the thoughts and impressions that come along with that. So welcome, everybody.
Greetings.
Greetings.
Hello.
Andrew, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I know you're fairly well known to the community, but hopefully we've got some new eyeballs looking on.
Yeah, my name's Andrew Paris. I'm just turned 61. I'm a broadcast television engineer. If you notice where I'm at, I'm in my TV truck in, where am I? Juno Beach, Florida. I have problems remembering where I'm at. I used to work for NASA for 13 years, where I got to fly zero-G and scuba dive with the astronauts and travel all over the country, all over the world, doing NASA stuff, doing shuttle operations, landings and things and so forth. And I just got back into space a couple of years ago. I volunteer at Space Center Houston on a regular basis, and one of the co-founders and co-leaders of Inspire 24.
Amazing. Thanks so much for being here with us, Andrew, and thanks for sharing your time. I am going to hand the ball off to Mason Doc Robbins. Mason leads education and innovation at Saxford Spaceport. Mason, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Mason. I am the most Northern American living in the United Kingdom, full stop. It's basically the edge of the flat Earth up here in Shetland. But yeah, so I'm at Saxford Spaceport at the very top bit of Shetland. If you go to the top of Scotland, keep going, and you probably still won't reach us. So I'm in charge of everything kind of education, innovation, skills, upskill, reskill, and just all around excited about sharing space. And I work with anyone from age 1 to 101, I like to say. And just getting kids excited and then really pushing and driving the spaces for all and future jobs in space and everything that Mike Mongo stands for, because he's amazing. And I think a lot of us are inspired not only about what, like with Inspire 24 and the Inspiration 4 mission, but then also what Space Plus is doing with the next class of commercial astronauts. So we're all here to share that passion along with what we do.
So really quick, Mason, can you tell us about an hopefully future Space Plus trip that involves Vikings rituals?
Oh, yeah. In a future trip, we're going to hopefully invite Space Plus over for the Apelia Fires Festival that we have in Shetland every year, which is a big Viking festival where we have torchlit processions, we light long ships on fire, and then we just celebrate the Viking heritage. And a really big thing that I like to talk about here, especially in Shetland, is oral tradition is so important to sharing, and why steam is so important to space. So for us, it's always about the long ship to the starship. So it's bringing it all together.
Fantastic. We are here for Viking astronauts.
Working on it.
Oh, boy.
So we also have Ben Gamble, who's the creator of Astroben Podcast. So whether you're working in space industry or dreaming about becoming an astronaut as kids, we all have some sort of connection to space. So Ben, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Caroline. Like Mason, I'm also in the UK. I'm a bit further south in London, but it's still 1 a.m. here. But I run the Astroben Podcast, which you can check out astroben.com. I basically started it over COVID as a tool for me to meet who's who in the industry. I actually come from outside the space industry. I work in the venue space industry, so owning and operating commercial hospitality venues. But I've loved every minute of doing the podcast, and I've chatted to some amazing people like Emily, who was on episode 49. I've also had Mike Mongo on before he was selected as one of the Space Plus future astronauts. I've also chatted to actual astronauts like Scott Kelly, Haley Arsenault, and Scott Kidd, mission pilot of Polaris Dawn as well as a load of other space tech entrepreneurs and that sort of people. So yeah, very happy to be here, and I'm all about finding out who's who in the industry. So it's great to meet you all.
Thanks so much, Ben. It's a pleasure to have you here after being on your podcast. Very excited for your perspectives on everything going on in the industry, given the amazing conversations that you have all the time. And let's move on over to Jasmine Europa Singh. Jasmine is a recent graduate from Purdue University with a bachelor's in planetary and atmospheric science. Incredibly passionate about space and space exploration, more specifically, the search for life beyond Earth. That is a fascinating introduction. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself, Jasmine?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a baby in the field. That's what I call myself. But throughout my undergrad, I've pursued a lot of research opportunities that have ranged from exoplanet atmospheres to the Martian surface, which I just went to my first conference for in Canada. I'm really excited to present that research to everyone. And yeah, I've loved space since I was a kid. You know, my mom always tells me, like, you went from looking at the stars to studying them, and I always find that kind of beautiful. So I've always had this interest, like, since I was little. I interned at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center last summer. I hope to become a full-time employee one day. And aside from my academic career, I have a pretty sizable following on Twitter, and I do SciComm. And my Twitter has kind of allowed me to pursue a lot of outreach opportunities like this. I also have a blog, astrojazz.space, to further communicate about topics in space that I'm kind of interested in. I usually just have several topics. I put like a tweet poll thing about what topics do you guys want to see, and then I just go with whatever people are most interested in. And recently I joined Inspire 24 to help bring space for all, which is something I'm really passionate about. And currently I'm reapplying for PhD programs in planetary science with the hopes of doing astrobio stuff, because I really want to be a part of the search for life beyond Earth. So yeah.
So I'm sure a lot of people ask you this question all the time, but do you think there are aliens in Area?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, Area 51. I don't know. I was like, do you think there are aliens? Yes. I don't know. I will say, I mean, I'm pretty sure people have said there's a lot of stuff I know that they can't tell us. We joked about that during my internship, so I'm just saying. Maybe one day I'll get to see it.
I was going to say, so you're our in now.
Yeah, you let us know.
Yeah.
So we have Brittany, who Brittany Phillips is joining us, is a cleaning, passivation, and verification CPV technician at Blue Origin, an analog astronaut, and a former teacher, which is all really impressive. Thank you so much for everything you do. And Blue Origin sounds like an incredible job. So would love to hear a little bit more about you.
Oh, well, thank you. August, I was able to do a high seas mission. I was an officer for Valorius 3. So we did a 2-week mission on Mars, and I was actually teaching then, so I was with me to work, show my students. I filmed a lot of stuff for a real world application that's out of this world. I'm really big on letting everyone know the opportunities available. Back in 20, I was able to do a NASA social, and came back from that. Not some of my students, most of my students did not know what the International Space Station was. And I was like, are you like a thing for astronauts living and working in space this whole time? So that really kind of lit a fire in just letting them know what all is available. So school engineering, which was a lot of fun, and I just switched space industry, so I kind of have a wavy path as well. I love working at Blue Origin. I'm working at the engine manufacturing facility in Huntsville, so we are making BE4 and BE3U engines.
Yeah, I wish we had a better way of. I love on Zoom that you can do emojis, so you don't have to interrupt somebody, but you can like celebrate what they're saying as they're saying it. So we'll just give little rounds of applause.
Well, if you guys are joining us live on social media, please feel free to comment, like, engage, share this post, so then other people can also enjoy our conversation.
Absolutely. And I guess to kick off, I think really I am so curious about what people's big impressions are from Space Week. Like what were some of the highs and lows, and what really stood out for you guys? There's so much going on in the industry right now, and I think there's a lot to celebrate. But I'm curious what really stood out for you guys this week. And feel free for anybody to jump in.
I can start.
Yeah.
This is the first year that I've actually paid attention to Space Week, so I was following all the social media, and it is amazing how many creative people, teachers, people who are willing to teach and mentor are out there, and the things they do with the kids. I've got 2 grandkids now, are 3 and 4, and so they're going to start getting to the point in school soon where they're going to start learning about things like this, and it's giving me so many ideas. But I'm just grateful to see so many passionate people out there talking and teaching and educating the kids, which is really what this is all about space and our future in space. And like I said, first time I've really had a chance to really watch it, and it's amazing. I can't believe it. I'm very happy for it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think this year for me is also the year that I have paid the most attention. I come from a different industry. I previously was working in academia in a different discipline altogether. And so I really only became immersed in aerospace last December. So I'm still fairly new. I'm a baby as well, Jasmine, in the space. And yeah, Caroline has a really interesting path to where she is today as well. And maybe this is me being new, but I don't think I've ever noticed so much interest and passion in space. And I think the private sector has a lot to do with that, but I also think that like the innovations that we have currently right now are extremely inspiring. Anyone else, like is that a common thread? Are we seeing a lot more interest in space in general?
Yeah, I spent most of the week going around to schools, and it was interesting seeing how excited 6, 7, 8-year-olds were asking about, all right, it's sustainability. How do we deal with space junk? Like a 6-year-old asking about how I can build a robot or a CubeSat or something to go into space or program it, and they're ready to do it. Like just growing up, that was such a foreign concept, but now that's just part of the, all right, I'm 7, I want to jump on Python. How can I program this? Just, it's so exciting to see.
Yeah, kids have a lot of good questions. When I was at the conference this past week, there was a star talk. So, we had a couple speakers, big speakers in the field, and they just went to a local elementary school and talked about, space. And it was just so cute seeing the kids just light up and ask really good questions. Like, honestly, really good questions. One of the questions they asked was like, why are planets circles? Like, why are they not triangles or squares? And I was like, oh, that's a good question. Like, I didn't think about that, and it was so cute seeing them so excited. Like, afterwards they asked me for my autograph, and I was like, I didn't speak. I was like, I'm not important, I didn't speak. So that was really sweet. But yeah, they were really excited.
There
They
seems
get
to be a
super
lot of
excited.
there seems to be a lot of sort of celebrities in space talk at the moment. You've got Tom Cruise, I think was announced to do a first commercial spacewalk and film it himself as well, which I don't really understand how that works, but it's Tom Cruise, so I'm sure it will happen. But for me, like hearing William Shatner's comments today ahead of his biography about how his trip to space felt like a funeral was quite surprising, really. And that feeling of like sadness and climate anxiety, because a load of people have gone to space and felt the positives of the overview effect. But I think that was the first time I'd heard someone have that reflection. So I found that really interesting. I don't know, as more and more people go to low Earth orbit, how many people are going to have a similar experience.
Well, he's also the oldest person in space who's been to space, so that might have to do, that probably colors his perspective.
Potentially.
That is one thing, though, that really want to go to space myself, is to be able to have that overview effect, to be able to look back down and be like, that's where
I have
I
words about that.
spent my entire life. And yeah, that is, if I could just get a little piece of, I will have a fulfilled life.
The little blue marble.
You can sneak into payload space, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, one day I can be on a New Glenn and go with Blue Moon to the. Yeah, that is my goal, to teach on the moon.
So, does everybody here want to go to space? I know that seems like a silly question for space professionals, but is there anyone that would not go?
And if you want to go to space,
kind of.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah, people always ask me, believe it or not, if you want to work at NASA, it doesn't mean you automatically want to be an astronaut. People always ask me that. I don't want to be an astronaut. I don't know. It's because I think I already have a fear of heights, so that doesn't help. I think because you're already going way up. I have a fear of heights. I have a fear of roller coasters, so I know like the G-forces are not going to do well. Yeah, and I think I would also fail the psych evaluation. So I know you have to be mentally like sound to go. I don't think they would take someone with anxiety.
I think anyone.
I'm sorry.
I think anyone can be able to go.
Are you sure? Because
tell you what, Europa, how would you feel about flying on the zero-G aircraft?
True. Okay, that I would do. I would do that.
Well, that's the hardest part. Weightlessness is the hardest part of space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was going to say, you guys were talking about the overview effect, and that's like the reason that I want space to be for everyone, because I feel like everyone should be able to see Earth from space and get that feeling and maybe realize like, hey, this is the one planet we got, and it's very fragile. Like, look at how small it is compared to the vastness of everything else. So maybe we should care about it and like not put so much stuff in the air, I think a lot of people should go up there, especially politicians. They're the ones that are in control of all that. So maybe they would change their minds if they went up there.
Has anyone ever tried to do that, to get politicians to go to low Earth orbit?
No, but I think we should, and some of them shouldn't come back.
Well, just for the record, we had 2 U.S. senators fly in space during the shuttle program, but that was a different time, obviously.
Yeah. We should do it again.
Yeah, the opportunities to put not only politicians but people of power, business leaders, that kind of stuff, we're ripe for it right now. Not just the New Shepard and the Virgin Galactic, but there's the stratospheric balloon rides that are going to be going up here in a couple of years. The Stratosphere and Worldview. And that's a perfect opportunity because instead of like the suborbital flights, you only get a few minutes to look out the window. But the stratospheric flights take you up to 100,000 feet and you spend 6 to 8 hours up there. So you really get time to think about it and look at it. Plus you have time on the way up and the time on the way down. I mean, I've talked to so many people who want to do that, but that's the thing we need to do is we need to get politicians and people of power in those gondolas or capsules and get them up there. And that will make the impression, that will make the overview effect more real to them. And that's the people that need to be convinced.
Yep.
It takes summit meeting to a whole new level, or height.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it would be interesting to study the overview effect of someone that had only been up for a few minutes versus, someone that was up an extended period of time.
It's an interesting concept.
People I've talked to have talked about that. They would love to fly in the New Shepard to get that 0G and that the wings, obviously, to say you've been in space and so forth. But then they look at it and going, yeah, but that balloon ride, that would be pretty interesting. So it's a nice bookend idea, and we'll see how it goes. The balloon rides are going to be able to carry way more people than the current manifest for the any commercial suborbital flights.
I chatted to Dr. Chris Boscheisen on a podcast episode, and incidentally, he said that it was a very smooth ride. But what struck him about his flight was he did experience the overview effect, but he refers to it as the outer view effect. So it's that looking out away from the Earth and that sense of exploration, which, I think that sort of gets drawn out from different people. Some people will focus back on the Earth, and for others, it's more about, the excitement of exploring into the cosmos.
Yeah, exactly. I guess it's no big, a lot of people know this already, but we were speaking about Worldview. I've signed up to fly in Worldview in 2 to 3 years when that happens. And one of the things I've been thinking about really deeply about what am I going to do on that flight? I'm not going to just sit there in the chair and look out the window. I'm going to be active about it. I'm going to see about taking photography, but not just Earth photography, but also see if there's any chance for any stellar photography while we're up there, because we will be above 99% of the atmosphere, which is a great place to take deep space photography. So that's something to think about too. I know people who want to fly to musicians who want to compose songs and perform them.
I like that. I think you should take a notebook with you and write down everything you're experiencing, especially in that moment. Just jot it all down so you can read it back.
They're going to offer Starlink internet, so we should be able to live stream a lot of it.
Oh my goodness.
Cool.
Yeah, it sounds like, to me, it's a really interesting experience, because then you can start running some of these experiments, or say you have it tied in with a Space Week type of thing going on, or a Yuri's Night or something, that connection that you could actually do, like some of the stuff that they do on the International Space Station, where you could dial into kids or school routes around and like share that common experience and give that firsthand perspective in live time, is really fascinating how that's becoming more and more of a possibility. And how we wouldn't have thought about this 5 years ago, or even Space Week last year. So, and here we are. Where are we going to be in another year's time?
Yeah, absolutely. And so is that some of the most exciting news that you're reflecting on this week, Mason? Or is there another announcement that takes the cake?
Oh, there's always announcements coming out, but some I can't share yet, and others that might come out in the near future. I guess one of our big ones is we finally did release our education strategy here at Saxaford. Work in progress, and it's already being picked up by UKSA and Space Scotland, and we're not trying to replace education, but we're trying to be that conduit for information. So as we're bringing together different people in different sectors and different companies and everything, is how can we drive that conversation? And who knows, we might have some opportunity for some students eventually to ride share or satellites or other, who knows? I'm not going to tip my cap too much. And yeah, that's kind of exciting news coming out of up here. Other than that, yeah, Space Week's been just fun and exciting, just seeing how excited people are, just no matter where we go, and how it's just in the mainstream conversation.
So I guess a follow-up
for me,
Oh, sorry, Brittany. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I guess for me, this last week, the something really exciting was that we had our first, and then ULA has it. Just as we were starting, I believe Tori Bruno was tweeting that they were uncrating it, not far behind, and launch on Vulcan, and I will probably cry.
Yeah.
We'll all be with you, Brittany.
So we'll be with you, Brittany.
Yeah, Joan sent me a picture of her face and her reaction when DART happened a couple of weeks ago, and I cried watching like just this photo of Joan. I was like,
I cry
you know what?
all
This
the
is such a
time. When Funk flew,
Oh
my word, sobbed. I sobbed. Huge inspiration.
I was thinking. Yeah, I was thinking back to Joan because we did a competition here with Mars rovers and the kids programmed, and it was at the bottom of a mine. And as soon as they hit go and the programming worked from halfway across the UK, they had that same reaction as Joan did when DART happened. It was so great to see that just overexcitement of we did this type of thing, not knowing if it would happen.
It's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. Anyone else have any standout moments from the past week or just the past few months? It's been a really, really busy time in the industry. No. I guess, okay, different question. This time next year, Space Week 2023, what do you think we'll be talking about?
We're going to be
still
I was going to say Starship Super Heavy, successful flight.
Mhm.
SLS, Artemis 1.
SLS is rolled back for the third time this year. No.
Stop!
They're going to roll it out on the 8th for a target launch of the 12th of November.
Mhm.
So yeah, hopefully by next summer, next year, this time we should be talking about Artemis 1, what came of that, some more SpaceX, always talking about SpaceX, and hopefully by then we'll be talking about the first couple flights of Vulcan, and hopefully New Glenn will be closer to being ready to go. It looks good for everybody. Hopefully,
It really does.
New Shepard should be flying again by then too.
I'm not super familiar with launches. I only know major ones, so I apologize to everything. Every company that's not NASA, I apologize. But I can say I think we will be talking a lot more about James Webb and what has come of that. I think there will be so many exciting results. I got news that I can't share about James Webb because I talked to one of the people involved at the conference I was at. That was exciting. And we will be very close to Europa Clipper launching. Europa Clipper will be launching 2024. So hopefully there's more progress on that. Yeah, I think missions are really exciting. There's so much coming out, exploring the icy moons. And now we want to see the ice giants, which will happen in my lifetime. I'll be older when that happens, but that's still going to happen in my lifetime. So yeah, in the mission sphere, I think there's going to be a lot going on too next year.
Yeah, I think we're
going along with. Go ahead.
Go for it. Oh no, I was just
gonna say going the Artemis with Gateway go, and how Rock just capstone, which Friday they're able to get that out of its spin, so that's really awesome. But that's going to be a trajectory as Gateway, and I'm kind of a little invested into Gateway. My father-in-law is in Europe at Glenn Research, and he is on the solar electric propulsion unit, which is actually going to be like the first piece of that is. And so yeah, I'm super excited to see things coming to life and seeing a new space station on the moon.
Well,
Yeah.
let him know we would be interested in having a Space Plus workshop.
What about
Yeah,
you, Ben? Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Mason, you were.
Oh
you
no,
were-
no. I was actually going to say something similar, but saying like orbital reef. It'll be interesting because this time next year we're probably going to start talking about commercial missions to space stations more, which is slowly coming into the conversation. Just exciting. Sorry, Ben.
Yeah,
over to you.
I'd like to see all these things as well. I think finally to get Artemis off the launch pad, is going to be amazing for all sorts of reasons. Polaris missions as well, and I don't think the writing's on the wall yet in terms of what's going to happen by the end of next year. And I hope that there's more news from outside of America as well. I know the UK is going to have, its first launch from Cornwall, I think, like in a few weeks' time with Virgin Orbit, which I'm excited by. But I'd really like to see, the space race, especially between private companies, taking a kind of, becoming more of a sort of world effort. There's so much going on in the world, and I don't know, I think there's like an opportunity to kind of, unify the world by the race for space. So I hope that we can, start talking about an Earth flag and diverse crews and getting everyone involved. But that will take longer than a year, obviously.
But it's ongoing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of passion for making a massive international effort among private companies. I think that was one of the main and really encouraging things that I took away from IAC this year, is that everybody is excited and interested to get involved in space, from countries all around the world that haven't traditionally had large space programs. But I think the opportunity in the private sector really is providing a lot of increased access and the push for diversity. That's still it's just starting, and there's a long way to go. But what is encouraging is that everyone's really, I think, quite excited about the emerging technologies and the possibilities with them, and the fact that it is a lot more accessible with these emerging technologies.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry.
Okay. I just wanted to drop a little bit of alpha that we spoke with the team down in South Africa. And so we're really excited to see what they're going to do with the program going forward. So just sharing that. Bouncing it to Titan this way.
Great, thank you. One thing that came out of IAC that I've heard a little bit of talk about is Axiom signed with Saudi Arabia to fly 2 Saudi astronauts, and the first female Saudi astronaut on Axiom 2, which is coming in the spring, and that's huge. That's a signal from the commercial world that what those Axiom flights, instead of putting up billionaires who want to go play in space, they're putting up astronauts from other countries that don't have a traditional manned space flight program. And so this is their, I don't want to say shortcut, because that's not the way, the proper term, but their quick way to start getting some prestige and get some experience under their belt. And that's really what NASA wanted Axiom to do. And so you're going to see a lot more of that. I think they also signed, who else did they sign with? Italy, I think it was. But there are other deals like that in the works.
Yeah. Have we covered most of the? Oh, sorry, that's my dog. Are we missing any big events in aerospace in the past week? Have we missed any big announcements? Was anyone else at NASA Fort Dart or have any insights there?
No, I think Joan is pretty much our expert on that.
Yeah.
No.
There was Crew 5 launched last week.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to go through their handoff. First Russian to fly on a Dragon. First Russian woman flying on an American. No, I think there was a shuttle, but anyway, first Russian to fly on an American vehicle, and that's very good. It shows the connection is being maintained between the different ISS programs from the States and from Russia, avoiding all the politics, of course.
And first Native American
True,
woman to go to the space station on Indigenous Peoples Day. So
yeah,
another I think that's something that I'm really appreciating about new space, if that's what we can call it now, is that there's just becoming access for all, which is what I think we're all here to see and we're all being a part of, but we're actually getting to be a part of it and witness it, and it's becoming tangible. It's not just theoretical anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very lucky to be here at the start for sure. So I guess kind of moving into a little bit of the push for commercialism in space. A lot of the advances over the last 5 years have been really anchored, I guess, in the private sector. I'm curious about your guys' opinions on how you think the push for commercialism has shaped the industry as we see it today. I think we've hit on some of those aspects, like increased diversity and access. But how do we see NASA as fitting in with this, big push for commercialization, and where do we see that going in the near future?
I have a lot of opinions on this.
Oh, please share.
I hope I don't get canceled. I don't think okay. Let's try it. Space is not our playground, is what I'm going to say. I don't think, it's like what Titan said earlier, like billionaires playing around in space is not what I'm into, but I do agree with the side of everyone, all the countries, the ones that historically have not been represented in this, have not had access to this. I think it's really awesome that we're coming together and kind of providing access and hitting huge milestones with that. And I think NASA's playing a big part in like helping all these companies out and like doing all that. So there's a lot of good that's coming from it, but I will say the billionaires playing around in space and like, acting like, we can just go up. Oh, bless you. Acting like we can just like go up there and I don't know. We don't own space is what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? It's not our like playground. I think, there's the curiosity and the wonder. We need to stick to that and do that. But I just hope it doesn't go too far on the wrong side. I hope I don't get canceled for that.
You won't. I think it's a good point.
Thank you. I know some people feel this is such a touchy subject in the field, which is why I try not to like tweet about it too much, because I'm like, oh, this isn't what I'm here for. But this is an open, judge-free conversation. So
well, it's a new phenomenon with private companies, and to some degree, seeing the owners of the companies risking their own lives is inspirational. The same way as Branson especially has done throughout his career. He's a showman. He flew around the world in a hot air balloon to launch Virgin Atlantic. He's a marketer. For Bezos, I don't know, but it seems to be a lifelong mission. And if he did experience the overview effect, his ability to change how he runs his companies is going to, affect a huge amount of people. I mean, it's too early to tell whether that has had a lasting impact on him. But for me, I think NASA has created the precedents for private companies to be able to build infrastructure in space. So, private companies are able to do what they do because NASA paved the way. So I see NASA becoming the kind of FAA, Federal Aviation Authority, or the CAA here in the UK for space-based activity, because they can help with training and regulations and recruitment, all that sort of stuff, and then the private sector can take the risk and the expense to go as far as they can go. But I'm interested to hear other people's opinions on that.
Well, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. NASA's true place in this ecosystem is to be the leaders, to test it, to try out the new technology, to be the first to the moon, back to the Mars, going to the Mars, and allow commercial industry to come in behind and do the everyday stuff, deliver passengers and cargo to the International Space Station. Eventually, they'll be doing passengers and cargo to Gateway and then to the moon and so forth. They're pathfinding essentially. And that's what their mandate was when they were created. It was to explore. And that kind of got lost in the 80s with the shuttle when they were launching satellites from the shuttle. And then the Challenger accident happened, and that changed that. So they went back to more science-based. And then we moved into space station and so forth. So they've led the way. Space station is such a valuable tool in mankind's tool belt right now, and that's one of the things they want to maintain. That they want to pass that gauntlet to the commercial sides. They're literally they're going to be taking experiments and modules and moving to the Axiom. When Axiom builds their station on the International Space, then they separate. So they literally be handing it off, and they want to continue that to as many of the commercial partners that want to do it. And then those partners will also be finding other customers. And so it's all about NASA leading, but I think they've finally achieved to the point where they realize when to let go. And that's one of the things that's caused that is their budget. Their budgets have always been very restrictive. The glory days of the Apollo program, money was no object, and then poof, they get 3 missions canceled, or 3 Apollo landings canceled, and they've had to deal with less, do more ever since. And they finally come to grips with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, going off of that too, with the Challenger and Columbia accidents and that stopping American space for that time being, and then once the shuttle stopped altogether and we were solely relying on Russian Soyuz, being able to have commercial companies being SpaceX with the crewed mission, it a sense of redundancy to with one company goes down, others that are able to still continue on with the process, as well as every data from it. So you're able to and to grow each one and to be able to help everyone in that aspect. And that's without even the payloads on it. The payloads that are on it are not only helping for our future space, but helping here on Earth. The ISS off the Earth. I think a lot of times that overlooked by some of the fanciness of going to space, but that I feel like we really need to make sure everyone understands is that it's not just about taking over space or any of that stuff. A lot of observations can be done on different things, just hopefully stop what's happening with the warming and climate change and all of that, and potentially reverse it. So yeah, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, was it this week? I've lost track of everything. When SpaceX and NASA came out to talk about the Polaris program and servicing the Hubble.
Week.
And so that's a huge crossover right there, where suddenly private industry is able to interact with some of the most valuable assets that I think NASA has and holds to prolong its life. I mean, without that, we would probably end up losing the Hubble, and it was already supposed to be retired by now. So there's giving those opportunities and that explore and that expand. And I was lucky enough when I was over at Kennedy for the Artemis launch to talk to Administrator Nelson, and this kind of was brought up as like, look, you've got Artemis going to the moon and Mars, but you have all these companies that are just going into low Earth orbit. What does that mean for you? Is that anything? And he kind of summed it up in the sense of like, look, it's those companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin that are taking more humans into low Earth orbit that allows us to go to the moon and go to Mars, because it's showing the imagination, it's engaging the people, it's showing the possibilities there that allows us to go on and do that next step. But I think NASA's also, this is probably not going to win me any friends, NASA's in a very fragile place right now too, because if SLS doesn't work, then I think a lot of confidence in the funding is going to be a challenge for the future of NASA for going to the moon and Mars. And it might be all private that does it. I hope it does. I hope that Artemis is successful. But even at that, we're looking at connecting with SpaceX to just land on the moon and everything. So it's this combined effort that NASA can have the expertise and the trials and all that, but the cautiousness of NASA, like with SLS on that first scrub launch, Elon probably would have gone for it, but NASA has to take that more conventional, soft approach to it because they can't risk blowing up a rocket or something. So.
Yeah, the made a good point about that. Elon decided to use methane, so he didn't have to worry about hydrogen, and so that's how he thinks a lot farther down the road strategically about that. But yeah, SLS is a make or break for a lot of what NASA is. But I think there will be a point sooner than people think that commercial will step in to doing what they're doing with SLS, because it'll just be better, cheaper. When Super Heavy and Starship launch and they get that operational, there's no way SLS can compete with that. And Congress, for their own reasons, have continued to fund SLS, and it'll become too obvious and too expensive to keep something like SLS running if there's a cheaper alternative.
I wanted to clarify my position because I feel like it seems really harsh. No, I really do. I'm for this. I'm for making space like more accessible and like, other countries getting on and like other companies working with NASA, that kind of thing. It's just certain aspects of it I don't agree. And I hope that came out. Like, I just seemed too harsh. So I wanted to say, like, I'm all for all of this. Like, I love it. I think, the Apollo era is like personally my favorite because we all came together for this one goal, and the technology, wasn't nearly where it's at today. And we still accomplished that. Like, right. They didn't have the internet to search up whatever issues and like, yeah, all that. So I wanted to clarify that I agree with the stuff happening. I just think there's certain aspects of it that obviously it's too new to know what's going to happen, but certain things that need to be worked out. But yeah, thank you.
I love that you brought that full circle.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify because again, I don't want to be canceled.
We're not gonna cancel.
Oh,
Thank you.
This is a safe space.
Like you're expressing something that like the general public also feels as well. Right?
Yeah,
Like, they don't want billionaires to be playing with space either, I think.
Yeah, I don't want it to turn into just like a profit thing, and rather than like, because we don't want to lose that sense of wonder that we had back then, right? Like, what's out there, what can we learn, right? I don't want us to lose that initial sense of wonder and to have it turn into just a cash grab type of thing, so I want us to still come together with that common goal of like, we want to explore, we want to learn more, not only about our own planet, but about everything out there. So yeah,
the aliens, let's just say
yes, the aliens, which definitely exist. Yes.
Well, Europa, have faith. Historically, it's always been the wealthy that rode the first train, flew the first airplane. So this is not part of the natural progression of it. But I think in a world with the internet, things like you were talking about, it's going to move much faster than it did before, because more people will see it happen more quickly, and then they'll get excited about it and want to get more involved. And then that sense of hope and wonder about space will overtake all the commercial, the money grab, like you said.
Yeah.
But I think it's important on that point, Andrew, not just to have more eyes on it, because I think aerospace initiatives have always had fairly high viewership. I think the actual storytelling of the reasons behind some of these initiatives, some of it's just for fun, and we can all agree that we know what that looks like. But I do think that there is, in general, for people that aren't involved in aerospace, there is a bit of a misconception about the current space race and the privatization of space and what that means, who's going to benefit, what that looks like for equality on Earth, what sustainability looks like on Earth. I think that's one of the reasons why having discussions like this with phenomenal communicators in their field is so important. And I think aerospace does have some wonderful storytellers. So I guess in that regard, like we always have our communities and our relatives and our families that come and ask us questions about what we do. What questions do you guys get that sort of fuel the misconceptions that we see in the general public? Do you get questions a lot of the time? Andrew is like, yes.
Yeah, well, that's one of the side effects of volunteering at Space Center Houston is you get to meet the general public, and so you get a lot of basic questions. And it still amazes me that today we still have people going, "Oh, I thought NASA shut down after the shuttle program." I'm going, "No, we've had an International Space Station up since the beginning of the 20th century. We've had astronauts continue, people living in space, and so you're trying to give them a lot of information in a relatively short period of time, so it's hard to get to more specifics." But yeah, I get questions, some good questions about who's flying into space and how are they getting there. And I said, well, and I've also interestingly enough, I get a lot of questions. People seem to think that NASA and SpaceX are in competition with each other. There's some kind of friction, and they're not. I mean, that's the reality is NASA is very interested in SpaceX, as they've proven with their contracts. And NASA's also very interested in Blue Origin. They're very interested in Firefly, and they're interested in all of them. So it's not competitive, it's cooperative. So when people start seeing that and the light bulb goes on and they're like, yeah, that's a good thing.
Team space.
Hashtag team space.
I usually get a lot of questions about Mars and like, can we have a sustainable presence beyond Earth? And obviously that's a tricky question when we haven't done it yet. We don't know what that looks like. So I don't know how to answer those questions, but I think that's more so allows me to understand where people are thinking. And I think a lot of people are thinking beyond Earth, even though I'm like, we should do that. But at the same time, we have our own planet to care about, and climate change is a thing, and this planet was kind of made for us to be on. So we should also care about Earth rather than talking about going to Mars. I mean, like I said, it's important, but I think we also need to put our focus towards Earth. I feel like some people are just fully like on the Mars train, but we need to also pay attention to the pale blue dot, so to speak.
Well, Emily and Caroline, what does Mike Mungo always say?
Yeah.
Solve for space, solve for Earth.
Solve for space, solve for Earth. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because in my role, I always get what jobs are there in the space industry.
That's a good one too.
And what can we do? And I like to, especially when I'm working with kids, like there's going to be opportunities, especially if you're young, to go to space. I mean, Starship's going to take 100 people and 100 tons of cargo. There's more people in 7 launches of Starship than's ever been in space, type of thing. But in the same sense, as I like to also remind them that it took 450,000 people to put 3 people on the moon. And so it's a whole chain of people working together in order to get to space or get into the moon. So those kind of jobs. But again, going off of our good friend, there's jobs in space. Like every kind of job you can imagine on Earth is going to be in space. You're going to need space farmers. You're going to need space electricians, space plumbers, all those as we start living, working, and playing in space. So it's a combination of both. We need everyone in a team to get there, but we're going to need a team when we're up there. So those are around kind of what I get. Or how do you use the toilet in space? Or what animals are good for going into space or not. So.
Good question.
I learned that cats are not one of those animals.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Little balls of razor wire.
Once they hit like 0 gravity, they're like, oh no, this is not where I'm supposed to be. And you're the problem. And they go after you.
I'm kind of glad NASA doesn't send animals to space anymore, because like the Laika story always gets me emotional. And I know there's like monkeys and stuff, but obviously the Laika one's like very famous. But I don't know, those make me really sad, because like imagine the animals just being up there like lost and confused. There's no humans to like calm them down or help them out. So I don't know. I don't think animals are meant to be in space.
Well, Some of them will be going because we're going to need them.
Yeah.
I'm interested, Ben. You interview so many people. What are some of the crazy questions you get?
Yeah.
Well, I had a chat to Tom DeLong about UFOs, and that was I got inundated with Blink-182 fans asking, "Oh, can I put him in contact with Tom?" I was like, "No, obviously not." I mean, I don't work much with kids, so I don't really get the kind of nice kid questions, but I suppose I do sort of. I do kind of have a feeling about the sort of general public and their sort of there's sort of a disconnect between like what we think the general public think and actually how it is, because as launches become more regular, we just get used to it. And from what I hear, it was sort of similar in the Apollo era. It was like people very quickly got used to the idea of humans on the moon. Not relatively quickly, but like after a few weeks, it sort of went from being the front page to somewhere near the middle. So I think that there's a danger that might happen if with us focusing on back to the moon, onto Mars, and it's got to involve the whole world, because if it's just America centric, no one's going to care. So that's a real challenge. But I think I like the idea of some sort of way of enabling every country on Earth to have a presence on the moon, a bit like that artificial island in Dubai, the world, where it's like these companies that we're talking about build the infrastructure, and every country on Earth can have a sort of landmass and then feel like you're part of it. But yeah, dreaming here. It's not going to happen quickly.
I love that suggestion. Caroline and I fully plan to retire on the moon. So.
Together. That's going to be our like our ultimate honeymoon.
Yes.
A question that's been floated around for a while is when Elon talks about colonizing the moon, colonizing Mars. And you have to have people that are willing to go there and stay there, because that's part of what colonization means. And there was an interesting mention about it was a reference to comparing the elderly that lived around Fukushima in Japan after their tsunami and their nuclear accident, that there were elderly members of the community volunteered to do the dangerous work that would expose them to radiation, because the effects of the radiation wouldn't affect them for several years, and they were already long enough in their life they realized that would they could be useful. And so the concept's been come up with finding people who are, I don't want to say aged out, but have achieved a point in their life where they're willing to go to Mars and spend the rest of life. It may only be 10 or 15 years, but they're at least committed to that kind of thing. And I contemplated that for a while and had a conversation with my wife, and her first reaction was, no, you can't go. And I said, well, just think about it. And I'm still contemplating about it. It might be something, if it was ever offered, I might consider it. But of course, there's always family to think about and things like that. But when you talk about trying to change our planet or change our world, and if it means people going to Mars to help learn about Mars to help save our planet, and you look at the hard facts about it, I could consider something like that. And if I could consider it, there are going to be other people who would consider that too.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, I see we've lost Brittany. It could have been a time she might have had to go right at 9. So I just want to flag that, and I know that it's late for Ben and Mason. So I think we'll just pose one more question for people that are able to stay a couple more minutes and answer. And I just want to thank everyone for being here with us for the full hour. What are you looking forward to most coming up next? And what does this mean for the future of the industry for you? And you can sort of pick and choose from that as you will, because it may be very different.
I already know mine.
It
goes back to my call sign, Europa Clipper. I'm really looking forward to exploring the ice giant, or ice giants, the icy moons, also the ice giants too, but the icy moons in particular, because I think they are really going to give us that glimpse into astrobiology. And this is, it's a new field, right? Exoplanets, that field's only been around since the 90s, I think. I wasn't born, so I don't know. But that field's only been around since like the 90s, and astrobiology is really coming into the forefront, and that's really what I want to do. Like my PhD research, I really want to do astrobio stuff, because I think there's something out there. I really believe it. There's no way that this vast universe is here and we are just the only ones like right here in this little, blue rock. So I think these missions to like look for, and JWST is also helping us, probe exoplanet atmospheres and look in that sense. So I think this new era is just going to be so exciting. I'm 22, I'm a baby, but this new era is just, I'm so excited for the astrobioscience. I really hope in my lifetime we find something, even it's microbes. Like people always have this misconception that aliens are going to be the green things we see in Hollywood. No, I think microbes matter too, because that is life in a sense, right? We came from itty bitty things, right? So I really hope something comes out of that in my lifetime, at least. That's why I really want to be a part of that search. So that's my takeaways. I know obviously like establishing a human presence, that's really important, but I also think this other side that isn't discussed as much should be talked about more, life beyond Earth, right? So yeah, that's what I'm excited about. Yes,
Jasmine,
microbes do matter.
Do you have a merch line?
Caroline.
That should go on a shirt. Microbes.
Oh yeah, you're not the first person to tell me that.
I will buy it. I will buy it.
You are not the first person to tell me some of the things that I say should go on shirts. So maybe one day.
Europa's strong.
Yeah, I like that. Europa strong.
Yeah. So
Caroline is really passionate about her
thank
merch.
you.
Guys.
That's me rambling. Obviously, Ben, if you want to have me on your podcast and talk about aliens, I'll do it. So yeah.
You're more than welcome. I think for me, the what I'm looking forward to, it's not really a particular launch or a particular moment. Well, it is a particular moment. I think there's just an opportunity for the world to come together for a single experience, that may be stepping on Mars for the first time, like this generation has never experienced, and the potential there to, for us to, even for a brief moment, to kind of realize that we're all one and all connected. I don't know if it will happen like that, and things could get a lot worse and completely distract from those efforts to explore the solar system. But I hope space can sort of bring us together, really. And however that happens, it may be a scientific discovery that comes off the back of a mission that no one's really paying attention to. So yeah, maybe
we at least expect it.
Yeah, that's what I agree with. I think space is the one thing that brings us together, because we're all kind of on this planet, except for the people on the ISS. But we're talking about us. We're all kind of on this planet, here. So we're all humans, right? We want to explore. We've been exploring since the dawn of humanity. So I hope, it's a one common cause. So I hope that maybe that'll bring the world together. So I want to agree with you, Ben, on that.
I think my favorite analogy is from Nicole Stott, and that's we are all crewmates on Spaceship Earth. And I think that gets at
that should go on a shirt.
Yes. It gets at the fact that we have limited life support systems and there shouldn't be any borders. And we are all in this together and we need to problem solve when there's a crisis. I think it just summarizes it all really, really nicely. So that's when I get questions like, well, why are we leaving Earth when we should be addressing the problems here? That's the one that I bring up the most.
I wanted to interject real quick. I have a late breaking item here. My wife says she fully supports me going to Mars and colonizing. So get my seat ready.
No,
I don't know if that is support or if it's
just like away, like yeah,
I'll take it for face value, right?
yeah.
Brittany and Mason, any thoughts on what you're looking forward to the most coming up in the near or distant future?
Okay. I think it's kind of, for me, it starts with like the Polaris program, and it's opening new kinds of space missions to a broad range of people. And Polaris is kind of setting that foundation, or even inspiration for set that foundation. And then it's allowing that next step, that as we have like orbital reef or some of these low Earth orbit opportunities, that it's just becoming more and more accessible to more and more people that will then grow to that next bit. But I think that really then ties into, what do we want space, and where do we want space? What does it look like? Well, we know where. Sorry, 2 a.m. we know it. We know where space is, but it's like the course that we're all taking with Loretta, in the sense that we are now at that generation that we can kind of have influence to decide what space is going to be for the future generations. And so that's what really excites me, is that we're in that golden age, or that precipice, or something that we could either get it right or get it horribly wrong. Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, this is where we're at. Like, I understand like the point of having a space force, but in the same sense as, do we need to go ahead and extra militarize a domain that we want to have for peace and to bring people together? It's a juxtaposition, it's a challenge. So that's what I guess really excites me about space, is we are of the generation that could really define what space is for the next generations after us. So it's a responsibility on us, as well as it's a challenge for us to, I guess, try to be our best selves for the greater good, if that makes sense. I can keep rambling at 2 a.m, but I probably should hand off before I end up either getting fired or say something that's so ridiculous that I'm promoted. Yeah.
I think
Off
it's
to
just
wish.
Oh, you're muted. Oh no.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Just kind of the same thing with that everybody's been kind of saying throughout this whole thing is, especially on looking at the last 5 years, looking at the last 10 years, looking at the last 15 years, and what we've been able to accomplish in that time. And so just thinking forward ahead 5 years or forward ahead 10 years, like, where are we going to be? Because, the more technology, the higher we get, the farther we are going to be able to reach. And so instead of starting down at the baseline here, we're going to be up here starting out. And I think that is incredible. And all the different opportunities that are going to be available for research and for kids. Do a little plug: Club for the Future, get to send a postcard to space, get it stamped and back to you. That's pretty cool. That's something that I would want, that I do want, and I'm going to do. So, that's igniting a whole new generation to be inspired to look outside of our atmosphere and just all of those opportunities. And I think that's one thing that all of us are very passionate about, is helping inspire future generations.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna take the easy route here. I'm gonna say I'm excited for everything. I'm excited about everything that's going to happen. I'm excited to talk to people. I'm excited about talking to people, inspiring people. There are times when I get home, I spend a lot of time on the road. So when I get home, I like to have, I try to relax, but I get so excited about talking about space and inspiring people and so forth that I can't wait to get to Space Center Houston to talk to people. So yeah, I'm excited about everything, and I want to try to share that passion with people. It's all about teamwork, as Mike Mungo says. It's all about teamwork, and we all will do it together. And we, as a team, can decide what kind of future we want in space, what kind of government we have in space. People have, that's a very first beginning of the talk about how we want to govern ourselves in space. When we get to Mars, is it going to be a separate government? Is it going to be, there's all kinds of ideas being floated around like that. So it's something we as a team can decide.
I want to ask you, Titan, please don't take offense, since you're older than me. You're older.
I know.
Do you feel, yeah, that's why I was like, don't take offense. How do you feel about like my generation, like, and our impact on this, right? Because you guys are kind of setting the way for us to like, do this after you guys' like time. So like, how do you feel about this?
Well, I'm very excited that you guys are following on. I'm excited to see the younger people coming on. We need our replacements, essentially.
Yeah.
I always joke about in the television industry, I need to train my replacement because I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, or I'm not going to be around forever to do it. So I'm very happy to see. I encourage young people. I talk to people all the time, have young teenagers and college age kids coming to me. How do I get into space? How do I do this stuff? Yeah. And it's in the old days was, well, you got to be an engineer, or you're going to be an astronaut. That's it. Yeah. Now, literally, and excuse the pun, sky's the limit. No, space is the limit.
True.
And I see Dr. Tracy's here. Dr. Tracy, can you hear me?
Hey guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Surprise
How's
guest.
It going? Yes.
There she is.
Surprise guest.
Well, you made it just in time. We are just discussing what we are most excited for, but first I'll let you introduce yourself, Tracy.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Engineer and scientist with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. I do a lot of work with NASA, like designing aquaponics for space travel, an algae bioreactor to sequester carbon from Mars for carbon material, and right now working with NASA on a competition to detect bacteria blooms from satellite imagery.
Amazing. And what are you most excited about coming up in the space industry? And I just want to flag that we may have a couple of people hopping off as it is late in the UK for Mason and Ben. So we did say bye to Ben there really briefly. But yeah, Tracy, I'd love to hear of all the things happening during Space Week and in the aerospace industry right now. What are you most excited for?
Yeah, I think that I'm for the sustainable innovations for and like new ways for water treatment. With the limitations of sea, reach a sustainability point that right now we think is not, but in fact it absolutely is. And space is the way for us to jump hurdles to get to. What did I miss?
We're giving you rounds of applause.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We agree.
Thank you.
Space calls for Earth.
Thank you. But yeah, so happy to join this aquaponics team. I was always one of those environmentalists that were like, why? I completely disagree with that statement now. Space gets us so much faster here on Earth than we're getting on our own.
Yeah, very well said.
Oh, it's okay.
Very well said.
Yeah, we got I got it down.
Amazing. Well,
and by the way, Europa, I don't take offense to be calling old. It's not a 4-letter word. It's only 3.
Okay.
Well, I think sustainability in space is a really fascinating topic. I wouldn't mind, just while we've got you, and I know that we're a little bit over time, but while we've got you, Tracy, I wouldn't mind hearing your opinions on sustainability in space and where that's going. There's been a lot of recent evidence for, space is not a limited resource, just like we thought the ocean was a limitless resource, a couple hundred years ago. anything in the field of sustainability in space that's inspiring to you at the moment?
I think just the fact that people are starting to think about it is good, and everything, Elon with bringing everything back to Earth and reusing and recycling. That's a just like you were saying about the ocean, and hundreds of years ago, we thought it was still treating the ocean like it is this limitless pit, like delusion. And we can't do that with space too. It's just so I'm really looking forward to sustainable space as a trash dump. Do you know how many people told me that that's where they think our trash should go? Just like throw it into space, because it'll just, the universe is expanding, so it'll just go somewhere and we'll never have to deal with it again. Yeah, that's not how it works. So I'm really hoping with this new focus on sustainability, not only will we change how we're, but we're also going to develop new materials and new ways to reuse and recycle on Earth as well.
Very well said. Very well said. Yes. Caroline, thank you for that. Well, everyone, I know that we are almost 20 minutes over time, and I just want to respect everyone taking the time out of their day, especially late at night, to jump in. And Dr. Tracy, thank you so much for jumping in to help us wrap up the end of the roundtable discussion. We certainly covered a lot in current events in space, and a lot of what we are excited and inspired by coming up in space in the near future. Andrew or Caroline, I'm going to open the floor. Anyone else that has any closing remarks or thoughts about this roundtable? I would love to do another one soon. And we will absolutely make sure to keep in touch with all of you guys. I know you're heavily involved in the Inspired 24 as well. And so we're just so excited to spend time and get to know you.
Yay! Way to go, Wish. I didn't have a shirt. I didn't have one to bring with me. Yeah, I would love to do this again. This is fascinating, guys. This is I want to say a dream come true, but wow, this is really good to talk to this many people with this many views about the common love for space.
I have a suggestion.
I'll be an hour late next time.
Oh.
Okay.
I have a suggestion for the next one. Maybe we could talk more about like the mission side and like planetary, because like I'm trying to get into the launch side. I don't, again, not a rocket scientist, don't understand it. It's cool, but like I don't keep up with. There's so many launches happening. I have no idea what's happening in that sphere. So I think maybe next time, since we focus more on the launch side this time, maybe next time talk about missions like solar system, exoplanets, planetary science, like, what's going on in that sphere, because I think that is just as important. I mean, we saw response to JWST. It was incredible, right? So many people sharing these images, finding them so beautiful, wanting to understand them more, and everything. So maybe we could talk more about that side of things. So I think people also care about, space in general. So that's my suggestion.
Well, I would love to just do like a specific workshop if you want to help me.
Yeah.
We can have anyone here that's interested in joining again, or we can also include other researchers or collaborators that because I agree. I would love to talk more about not only the science aspect of learning more about what's out there, and I love the idea of talking about astrobiology specifically, but also the human exploration aspect of it, which I think is a pretty large component.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when Jasmine is a clue to something challenging. Yeah.
Mason, yes, just dropping. So we have an educational treasure hunt going on in our community online at the moment, and Mason is sort of letting everyone know that Jasmine's name is very related to the current clue.
I wasn't being that obvious.
No.
I'm I'm fully hands off that whole thing. I
Oh.
got late and said, nope, I'm out.
Oh.
Here I am waving to Andrew like he's got to go. But
No, but that sounds great, and because it, like, for ourselves up here in Saxford, it is all about launch usually, but it's also amazing to talk about, well, what are we actually doing on the missions, or what are CubeSats even used for, or nanosats, and that's stuff that people don't really talk about much in the space industry, or the cool technologies coming out. There's a company down in Edinburgh that's making wooden CubeSats, just so when they go out, they do their mission, and then they come back and they burn up. Like, come on, people already.
Cool.
Yeah. Wooden satellites are not new. That's not something new. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like those kind of things would be so fascinating to get a deeper diving discussion.
I'd love to.
Can't speak.
Yeah, because I love talking to, I have my engineering friends, and then they have me, right? They're like, oh, I don't know anything about planets. Tell me about planets and moons. And then I'm on the other side, like, tell me about rockets. I think rockets are cool. So I love having that interplay between scientists and engineers in that aspect, because we don't know about each other's fields. We might know a little bit, but I don't know everything about rockets, and you might not know everything about planets. So, yeah.
Okay. So we're going to have a part B, everybody.
Yes. Announcement.
Yeah, and maybe Dr. Tracy can talk about more of her favorite things to talk about too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. I am going to end the stream here, and we will be in touch by email to see who wants to do this again. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in.